My name is Luc Opdebeeck. I'm Artistic Director of Format, Workspace for Participatory Drama here in Rotterdam. And we work with the Theatre of the Oppressed, which is originally discovered by Augusto Boal, Brazilian theatre pedagogue, which was very much influenced by Paulo Freire. Freire, who wrote books about pedagogy of the oppressed. Now, what's so typical of the theatre of the oppressed is a theatre form which is trying to humanize humanity. And that's the primary goal of this theatre. And you will find us working in prisons with very difficult educational kids. You will find us working with mental disabled people, psychiatric patients, homeless people. I think that's a little bit the frame, the framework, or our target groups, as some people call it. I started to work 20 years ago. I'm working 20 years now with that method. Now, after 20 years, we have a company which has 7 facilitators and a staff of four persons to facilitate the facilitation. And I've been working internationally also in South Africa, in Laos, in several countries in Europe. To come to your first question about what is the goal of community arts, or what is the difference between community arts and arts for social change? I think the community arts is a very how do you say that? When
broad.
It's broad
Yeah.
Field of working. But in the theatre of the oppressed, we say life is theatre and theatre is life. So what we actually do, how a process works, is that we work with, for example, a group of psychiatric patients, and we will ask them, what is the oppression you feel in your lives, and what are the things you are running into when it comes to being a human as a psychiatric patient. And we develop scenes on that, and we will go with those scenes, or with the plays, like we call it the anti-model, because an anti-model is the reality which we don't want. We don't want that reality, but we live in that reality. We have to accept that reality. So once the anti-model, like we call it, is prepared, we will go back to the community and we will start to do forum theater with them. And forum theater means that the spectator in the room will become a spectator. And so
what does a spectator mean for someone who does not know at all?
A spectator is somebody who is sitting and consuming the theater. Instead of consuming the theater, he will become the actor in the play.
Okay.
So he can show us what kind of tactics or what kind of strategy he has towards the oppression shown on stage. And one comes and we reflect with the audience, and another comes and has another suggestion, and that way we make with the community, we make an analysis about the situation we are in. Now Boal, he put something on top of that. He said the forum theater is one thing, but actually what we have to do is we have to change lives of people. And how can we change lives? We can change lives once we got new laws in some kinds of situations, or there is an adjustment of policy. So we call that legislative theater, and people will vote in the room for the proposals made through the theater. And to give you an example of that, we've been working with mental disabled people, all from one organization, we selected some of the people who were voluntary to make a theater play about the problems they were facing inside of that institution. And we collected several issues which were quite important for the community itself. Once we collected all those issues, we voted on it. Like, what needs to be changed? What kind of things do you run into? And after 10 performances, we came with 21 proposals for change in that institution. And that's the way we work on social change. So actually the lives of the participants is changed. The rules are changed. People have been rehearsing for reality on stage, like we call it. So that's for me theater for social change. We call it theater of the oppressed. I know there is a large group of people calling it theater for social change, or theater in development, or there's different terms for it. But the idea of the theater of the oppressed is that the ownership of everything in the process is from the participants itself. It's not for us to invent the problems they are facing. That would be the biggest mistake we can do, I think. So it's a question of letting these participants come with their own issues and transforming that into an anti-model, going back to the community and playing the game like I explained it.
Yeah, so, well, somebody could say, well, come on, Luc, you're basically just talking about community theater. The community is working with you, they're creating these plays and they're suggesting. How then do we differentiate between it being community theater, since you've already explained what, theater for art for social change is? Can you elaborate on community theater? Because for the past few days we've been here talking about community theater, and some people would be rather confused and then what is community theater? In your experience as somebody who's been practicing and using Boal's theories, what would you elaborate on in as far as community theater is concerned?
Well, what I witnessed here during this festival, because for me it's not exactly clear as well what is community arts. It's a very broad term. But what I witnessed here is a lot of witnessing on stage. Like, people tell their story, almost always directly to the public. I don't know if you agree with that, but we saw a lot of plays where people just addressing directly their own story towards the public, which is fine with me. But at the end of the show, everybody goes home and thinks, wow, that was a sad story, man. It was really, I felt it in my heart and I felt it in my soul. But that's not enough. For me, it's not enough. I really love arts, and I really love artists, and I love artists who are devoted to their work, but I prefer artists who give their art and their knowledge towards a better world, which is a difference.
So, I don't want to name any companies, but I know some companies who believe that having people tell their stories, let's say communities telling their stories on a big stage, is one way that they can effect change. Because by creating publicness, not publicity, but making the work public, so bringing this about idea of publicness, it is a way to effect change. And since you, as somebody who's been practicing theater for over 20 years, you don't, I guess, what is your thought on taking your work and the work you work with your communities and putting it, let's say, on a national stage in the Netherlands? Do you believe that's one way of affecting policy?
It could be. It could be. For example, we had a project going on this year with very difficult educational kids, and we brought it to the parliament. Not that we asked the people in the parliament to get on stage and to replace the kid, because that would be really stupid, but it was a way of addressing their issues directly to the parliament and asking to change the law. Because these kids, they're in a position where they don't get good education, where they don't get good health care, where they don't get enough support from their teachers because the teachers are not paid enough. All these kinds of things we could address through that performance. And also, I think that even Aristoteles, he already discovered that theater always brings catharsis with itself. So there is some aspects in the theater already that heals, but we have to go behind that healing. We have to get behind that consumption of what is put on stage. We have to do something to change society. So that's always the question when we start with projects. Can we actually change something for the lives of our participants or of the community as a whole?
There was a big talk this morning about evaluation. How do we evaluate community art? How do we evaluate theater or art for social change? And I guess the question is more to do with affect. What is the impact on people? How do we feel that we are doing something?
First of all, I think evaluation is a very good thing to do. We need to evaluate our project. We don't have to be afraid of evaluating it. Though I see some practitioners are very afraid of doing so. But I think we really need to evaluate. But on the other hand, I'm thinking that we need to have tools, and we have developed them. We're only not using them at the moment. Format does, the company I work for, we do, but it's not on a broad scale or something like that. But the importance of evaluation is that also the ownership of the evaluation is with the group, and we need to give them tools to make that evaluation themselves. So the method we use to evaluate our processes, also there we try to make to let the ownership with the participants itself. And the way we do it with the ORIT method. And ORIT are 4 letters. You have the O, the R, the E, and the D. And the O is for observation. What did your senses, what did they feel? What did you see? What did you hear? What resonates in your brain after this process or during this process? Even in the middle we would take evaluations. And once they write it down on pages, and we will group all the different categories they come up with, and we will define words with that. And then we go to the next stage and we start reflecting on that. So what do you think about this? What's your thoughts? And we start writing down all our thoughts or speaking out, because many of the groups are not able to write, and then somebody else will do it. And once we reflected on it, we will go with the group and we will say, okay, so if this is our thoughts and this is our senses, what's our interpretation of this process? What does this mean for you in your personal life, as a community, as an addict, as a mental disabled people? What's your interpretation on it? And the last stage is the D is for decision. So if we have all this information, what are we going to do with it? And what would be the best strategy for the community itself? And for you as an individual. So then we all get points of what are we going to do with this, and that gives them a tool also to change the process, because maybe they're not satisfied with what is going on. And in the D point, they will point out, no, we were walking this direction. No, I want us to go that direction. I want to raise this issue. So it's a very dynamic process.
In a way, it does create a situation where the people participating in the projects are able to shape the agenda, or let's say, if not agenda is not the word, but to shape how the whole process is going. And if they feel that there are certain things that you have, as people who have come in to work with them, are missing out, or you have neglected, they're able to sort of redirect the project into a different direction.
And that assures us that ownership is at the right place.
Yes.
Because that's the most difficult part. Because we all have our concepts in our head. I've been making theater for 20 years, so it's so easy to say, okay, we do this and that. It's a trap.
Yeah. All right.